Yes.
Don't you?
No, I don't believe in aliens.
Yes. So between the 17th and the 19th century, the Atlantic Northeast was a hotbed for UFO and alien sightings relative to the rest of the world. In 1639, John Winthrop was the governor of Massachusetts and was considered a sober and discreet man by his peers, and he claims to have seen a UFO, making it reasonable to assume that there were others who had seen things, but maybe just a little bit too afraid to say anything that they might be seen as crazy.
In the mid-17th and early 18th century, the main route of trade for Massachusetts was through the canals and ports of Boston. Cue the canal drawings. North of Boston was where the majority of the sightings were at the time, right in this general area. And later on, the sightings shifted south of Boston, possibly due to the population growth or for more accessible travel in the area, right in about here. Now, but at this time, there was a huge, constant spotting of lights and UFOs that were over the ocean that sailors saw with regularity. About in this general area. The common factor of all these sightings was the proximity to water. Could they have been targeting a greatest resource or plotting to destroy our trade system prior to the Revolutionary War? That's up to you to decide. But as for me, aliens.
This leads us to Thomas Paine. He first arrived in Philadelphia about 2 years prior to the Revolution from Britain and immediately began to advocate for American independence. What could his motives be? Did he actually want the U.S. to be a sovereign nation? Or did he perhaps want to preserve the land and people for later cultivation for an alien race? Perhaps we were the first to delve into the true meaning of common sense.
In the document, Paine writes, male and female are the distinctions of nature, good and bad the distinctions of heaven, but how a race of man came into the world so exalted above the rest and distinguished like some new species is worth inquiring into, and whether they are the means of happiness or of misery to mankind. And not once does he claim a distinction for himself, possibly meaning that he sees the folly of man and considers himself to be of greater importance. If he saw the human race to be inferior in thinking, he probably wouldn't want the Revolutionary War to happen, unless he had adapted and had pity for them, thus leading him to write a pamphlet urging them to fight. Maybe Thomas Paine was more human than we originally thought.
I don't believe in aliens. I think that Thomas Paine was just a guy that saw the injustices the British was imposing on the colonists and decided to take action by writing a list of injustices that should happen for the common man using common sense. The reason he made it for the average person was because most of the higher society had more access to reading materials and owned businesses that were directly affected by the British. Paine was such a firm believer in freedom from the evil monarchy of Britain that he actually served in the army during the Revolution, proving that he was a true patriot, even though he returned to Britain after the Revolution.